You are live.
Okay, with that, Chris, any communications we have from DEEP that we need to be aware of?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, anything from Department of Transportation via the Shellfish or Harbor Commission? Have they been in touch with either one of you? And are they scheduling meetings or whatever?
No
Not as
word.
of-
No
And
word.
not as of yet.
Okay.
The only thing that we have is upcoming is a joint meeting between Harbor, Shellfish, and Water Quality. In October sometime, and
October 6th.
right, and I really encourage everyone to participate in it. This is a unique opportunity for us to get outside consultants who are, I believe, are from Pennsylvania that have zero clue of what we're all about as commissions, what we're about as a town, and their agenda may be different than what our needs and wants are. And I think they think it should be a question asking session. I believe it should be us bringing them to the light to make them understand what our harbor management plan is, what the commissions do. And we should be doing a dog and pony show, and they should be asking us questions rather than us asking them questions.
I agree. Diane?
Just to help, John, the group is from Boston, and they were invited in by our own planning and zoning department. They have been working on the industrial zone review. I share, your concerns. However, from the work I've seen them do, they do their homework, and it's the planning and zoning department staff that are guiding them. And so I have a little more hope there, but I think it's terrific that you're mentioning this October 6th meeting. That's great.
I was on the call in the initial interview, not interview, but the awareness call. And at that time, all of their input was solely from city employees. And they mentioned, and they used the word interested parties, but none of us or any of our commissions were either consulted or talked to or gotten a flavor of what we see along. It's not so much what we see, what the plan dictates and what the plan requires. And, some of the work that you're doing now with, looking to get deep involved with discharge. Well, that'd be very important with development along the coastline. And maybe even increasing, I think I saw you mentioned from 25 feet to 50 feet, the buffer between the shoreline or any construction. So all of these things are extremely important. And those points of views, particularly with the harbor management plan, because we all are guided by that, every one of the three commissions to a degree. And we need to make them understand the importance of it, the value of it, and that it needs to be adhered to. So it's not us asking them questions, it should be them it's not us asking them questions, it should be after us doing the dog and pony show, them asking us questions, and we give them the right answers. I mean, that's my opinion. I hope that others will see that same perspective.
You can give your input right now by talking to Alexis Carachetti and
Alexis
put
is,
in there.
yeah, but Alexis is phenomenal, and she works extremely well with all of us, and her input is also valuable. But at the end of the day, we have in place a harbor management plan, and that should be the rule unless we change it. But at this point, it's not up for change or review. It is what it is, and that's what needs to be our guiding light and their guiding light in all this development phenomenon.
I think they're very willing to listen to you. You got to take the first move and talk to them.
Yeah, no, that we have a meeting set up. It's a joint meeting with this commission as well. You're included, Dick, because it's very important that all the and we're all the stakeholders when it comes to the coastline. So, and within 1,000 feet of it. So, I mean, I don't want to monopolize the meeting. I said what I had to say, but that's hopefully what we'll look forward to. We'll both, I believe, be having 2 meetings prior to that meeting. Or at least one other meeting prior to that.
I had sent a note to Michelle asking for their credentials. Because when I looked up the company, it is primarily architects.
I
No
saw that.
No
Point
marine
well taken.
engineers, no geologists, no hydrologists, and they're going to tell us how to develop a harbor. I personally have an issue with that. Jeff?
We'll prepare and have a good discussion with consultants, but they need to remember that the responsibility for amending the harbor management plan doesn't rest with the consultants or planning and zoning. It's the responsibility of the Harbor Management Commission, which is the only city entity that can amend the plan.
Right.
And when we looked at the map, Joe, that you provided, or maybe it was just not provided to everyone, but it appears that the study area for this project is not just the upper harbor as we identify it north of the bridges, but also the South Norwalk Marine Commercial Area and the waterfront and the East Norwalk Basin. So that includes almost all of the commercial marine facilities except for the Cove Marina area in the city. So we look forward to discussing the project with the consultant, but if the purpose is to amend the harbor management plan or suggest amendments to it, only the Harbor Management Commission can do that.
Right.
So
And the important thing with that, Jeff, is all of the study area is in a FEMA flood zone.
Mhm.
All of it. So somebody's not doing their homework.
Well, we'll look at this. We can provide information, but it's not just a question of having input. The other thing is that any amendment, this is pursuant to the general statutes and the city code. Any amendment to city plans or regulations affecting the harbor requires review by the Harbor Management Commission and for consistency with the Harbor Management Plan. So it's not just a question of giving input that helps them with their study. Their study and the acceptance of it is dependent on the Harbor Commission in large part. So I'll stop talking, but we're preparing a good presentation of our interests and also of the Water Quality Committee and the Shellfish Commission that we can present for the purpose of this upcoming meeting.
Just a quick reminder, this is a chance for us to recommend to the zoning commission what zoning changes we think, including distancing, setbacks, having special corridors for instance, buffers, increasing buffers. This is our time to use our skills and knowledge and the harbor management plan to effectuate change for land use zoning and land use. The purpose is not to modify, at least not initially, any kind of other plans. And so I think we want to make sure that they read the Harbor Management Commission and apply it to any potential zone changes. And we want to give them suggestions. It's a great opportunity, almost once in our lifetime, to change that old rusty zoning regulation book.
Anything else? Okay. Anything from the Department of Aquaculture from the Shellfish guys? Steve, Pete,
No, Mr. Chairman.
thank you. Bill, anything from the Department of Health?
Only that we replaced our rain gauge this afternoon. I don't know if you noticed, but it wasn't working last few days. I think we're off by about 7 inches last night. So I worked with, I helped actually myself and one of the IT guys, we put it up. So we're getting some new software. We'll be getting that in a couple of weeks, hopefully, to get everything updated. So, but we got it in, so hopefully it'll be working going forward. So that's it.
Excellent.
Is there an estimate or an official measurement of the rainfall last night?
At DPW, at their rain gauge, had 7.51 inches. We had 0.9 here at the health department.
Thanks.
Okay, anything from Harbor Commission? John?
Now I'd defer to Jeff if he wants to bring anything up.
Nothing now.
Okay. And planning, and I have planning and zoning on the agenda primarily because I wanted to talk about that meeting October 6th. Did all of you get an invitation for that? If
Right.
not, I'll make sure. Dick, you got one or didn't?
Did.
Okay, so we're good. Okay, under old business, recommendations and mission statements. So recommendations for the commissions. That went out and Louise promised to get a revision to me before the meeting, and I haven't gotten it. So we are back to where we were with the copy that I sent out that had it broken down by which departments were supposed to get what recommendations. Are there any additions or changes to that?
Joe, I've gone over the whole list and I got some problems with it. I'm sorry.
Well, what are the problems?
My problems are that the sewage treatment plant, Ralph Kolb, and the people who work on these pipelines have not been consulted with. And there is a program well in advance to get GPS on all the sewer lines. The major lines are being inspected. And I just don't think that to go in there at this late date and try to tell them how to suck eggs is going to work. I think Ralph needs to come in and you will need to listen to what he has to say.
What on the recommendations I sent out does that specifically refer to? Because I don't remember anything in those recommendations like that.
Well, let's see. See if I can find it here. Provide GIS mapping of all city storm drains being done. Provide water quality monitoring stations, providing we don't have any real time, but they're being monitored every 2 weeks. Support funding for summer interns. We've already got 2.
Right.
This is stuff that's redundant and it's just going to look bad if we come in with it.
Well, if we don't ask for 2 more interns to specifically do storm drain for the whole city again, how is the 2 interns we have now going to do that with their regular job?
The 2 interns we have now are part of a strike force that helps run down problems in storm drains. They're not out there per se trying to find the new ones.
Correct.
And you got to recognize that the storm drains that are now identified are the big catacombs that go under the city and are most susceptible to pollution. In fact, they're the problem. 9 times out of 10, we have a problem. We go to Moody's Lane, we go to Total Marine, we go to these places, and it has to be tracked down through the line to find. The harbor bacterial condition this year is the best it's ever been. Now, I don't have official records. I'm not a certified lab, but I've done it 13 times, and I'll be glad to sit down with you individually and show you where we are.
Well, Dick, there's no debating that. The issue is, are there any new discharges that we are not aware of?
I have no idea how to answer that. I just think that to now double up and put more time and money onto it, it's probably not to give you the rewards you want.
Anybody agree with Dick? Jeff?
Well, I know we were going to work on it between now and this meeting, and I submitted my suggestions, which are a little bit different. So I don't know if it's appropriate for me to mention my comments now or
Yes?
keep quiet.
No, mention them now.
All right.
Jeff, we got the elections coming up. And if we want to sway interest, we have to get it out before the elections.
Okay, no, I agree with that. And I sort of agree with Diane, if we could commit to having we didn't do what we said we were going to do, which was to have a subcommittee meeting. But I came up, and I don't want to take everybody's time about this, but one example I think should be included is that we encourage and support deep establishment of a new general permit or other appropriate means for regulating the discharge of stormwater from non-municipal separate storm sewer systems constructed on private roads. That's the void that we identified. We know that those private storm drains are not subject to the MS4 permit, and if they don't affect enough acreage, they're not affected or subject to the construction general permit. I also think that we should encourage and support, as we started to do several years ago, the state legislative or regulatory initiatives to require the DOT to include stormwater best management practices in all new and refurbished highway infrastructure draining to the coastal waterways, such as included in the Yankee Doodle Bridge project, but not included in the Saugatuck River Bridge project. I think that's something that we can work on with the private groups, including the Watershed Association and Save the Sound. Tony Mobilia and I started to talk about this with Senator Murphy's staff several years ago, about having a federal requirement that the federal monies for transportation infrastructure improvement are conditioned on the recipient having best management practices to deal with storm drains. Now, Dick mentioned that the Engineering Bureau has already got a map of storm drains, but I've never seen that. So I think that recommendation is good, that we want to develop, with assistance from the Engineering Bureau, a GIS-based map of storm drain outfalls discharging into the harbor. And then that map is something that we could have for public review. We could add to it over time. Another recommendation is
Oh, yeah, for sure. For
but
sure.
I have a bunch of these, bunch of
Honestly,
things like
thank you
this,
so much.
including Joe. I agree that we should
Thank
encourage
you. You too.
and support a permanent water quality monitoring stations, which that USGS gauge would be consistent with that. And we want to encourage city plans for maintaining public trees and improving the urban tree canopy. We want to continue what I'm saying, and this is, I believe, is the correct way to say it. It's the Harbor Commission and the Shellfish Commission's storm drain sampling and testing program, including sampling and testing of additional drains. And I would recommend, it's my opinion, the development of a MOA, Memorandum of Agreement, among the Harbor Commission, the Shellfish Commission, the Health Department, and Harbor Watch concerning the use of all funds provided by the city to support the continued water quality monitoring in Norwalk Harbor. And then, along with supporting reestablishment of the Norwalk River Watershed Initiative, I suggest that we also encourage and support a contribution of funds by all watershed towns, including the city of Norwalk, to reestablish the part-time position of the watershed coordinator. And then I had a couple of other things too, but that's the approach that I was taking. I understand, Joe, the stuff about the drinking water and the reservoirs and the floodplain, but and then another one would be to encourage planning and zoning, as Diane was mentioning before, as part of this ongoing study, but to do a review of the land use regulations, to look for opportunities to strengthen them, to deal with resiliency issues and environmental protection issues. But
Okay,
anyway,
Jeff.
that's what I was working on.
I'm going to call a timeout here.
Yeah, I'm finished.
The last meeting, the group as a whole said, we can't just list a whole bunch of things. You've got to put it down by which commission, which organization has to receive it. So, having said that, can you categorize your recommendations into the groups that I sent out to all of you? Diane?
So as I apologize, or I sent an email around because a stab at this Louise ran out of time. I think it's a very good idea for any of our recommendations that there be like an action chart as to who we will appeal to. So that's a great idea. I feel that the categories are not ready for prime time. And I don't have my notes. I gave them to Louise, but from some that I remember, we start with, after our introduction, with our recommendations of a whole of government approach, that we continue and we initiate and continue communication with any and all government entities on a regular basis, including having guest speakers, et cetera. That it has to be a whole of government approach, including Common Council, for any of our recommendations, because we're all in this together. But that we then divide the categories, just refining what we had on the last draft that Joe sent around, to water quality, then the next, and that would include surface water as a subcategory, groundwater, toxics, and emerging contaminants. Then we have to include a potential for a septic ordinance. That would be an action step. Then the next category would be water quantity, which would embrace subcategories that include development and keeping in touch with our zoning regulatory people. The next category would be land use, where we look at a subcategory of conservation buffer zones, the Conservation Commission and the department. Shall we increase the buffer zones? Of course, I think most of us on this call would like to. P and Z, just what Jeff Stedman just mentioned. A subcategory of a flood and erosion control. Right now, the city of Norwalk doesn't have its own flood and erosion control board, unlike most other towns along the coast. It's kind of folded into the Public Works Committee of the Common Council, and they're just not getting to it as a committee, because I've witnessed it. And we have lost some actual money in grants because we don't have that kind of entity to laser-like focus on such an important part of water quality and quantity. Then the next category could be infrastructure, where we look at, yeah. And then lastly, education. So it's
Why
five.
haven't I gotten that?
Well, unfortunately, because some of our members got busy. So, and I want to just lastly to say, I appreciate, Joe, your mentioning of making these recommendations something that people think about and vote about by November. If we are given a few more weeks with a deadline,
Not going to happen.
well, a
Even
lot of us,
even
me-
if I
could I
have to put the
finish?
recommendations out
could I
as they
finish?
stand now,
Could
and
I
I will
finish my
say-
sentence, please? Just let me
I will
finish.
say,
Let me finish.
I'm the chairman
May I finish, Mr. Chairman? May I finish my sentence?
when I finish.
Oh, well.
If this drags on and drags on, I will send out the recommendations as they stand and say the group does not agree with this as a whole. However, these are topics that have been covered and concerns that the committee has. That's a fair statement. And that would not be stretching the truth. Whether it would be saying it as you would like it, probably not, because getting this group to agree on it could be tough. However, we can't, it's been 2 months. We can't keep dragging this on. So 1 week, yes. More than that, no.
May I finish my sentence now, Mr.
ahead.
Chairman?
Go ahead.
First of all of us put the time in that we can, all right? So what I wanted just to finish my sentence was to say that if we have, by our next meeting where we will vote on the recommendations, that gives you plenty of time, because none of the candidates get started on talking at debates and the like until October. I know that for a fact. So there's plenty of time to do public outreach and whatever press is a possibility to let the public know, but also the current officials and anyone who wants to be an official in the future. So I think also we were starting from whole cloth, these recommendations. And so there wasn't any attempt to drag this out. It's unfortunate that several people's time, especially after, these are not excuses, but it's taking longer than we thought. The original list was very raw. So we're trying to make the best of that and also make it as a sustainable document that other entities can work off of. And that's the only reason why I think we need more than tonight.
Got 1 week.
Well, I'm not sure, that's sustainable either. And there's no rhyme or reason for 1 week as opposed to,
Yes,
October.
there is, because then it has to go out. The committee as a whole gets a chance to read it, give feedback, and by that time, you have your next meeting. And we could disseminate it at that next meeting. It can't come in 2 to 3 hours before a meeting and expect everybody to go through it and make suggestions.
That's good.
It takes time, like you said.
Joe, I think part of the problem is you haven't got enough people in the room to sit down and really go over the thing and dedicate the time to it. And that's where it's falling apart, because I have problems. Diane has problems. I'm sure there are other problems with the way that thing is written. And it needs to be structured, straightened out, and we need to contact the expert. Ralph Kolb would have a lot to say about what's in that comment and that list of items. And I think he ought to be given a chance to say it if we go visit him, whatever.
Dick, we can go visit him. I can email it to him.
Yeah, just,
He has a right to be here at this meeting. He has a right to be at the Shellfish meetings. They are encouraged to be here, but they don't come.
I didn't know that he was ever invited.
It's been a standing meeting for water quality. And if I have to invite him every time personally, I did the first couple times, never heard back. That was it. So I will extend it again. I'll send him the recommendations. You guys can work your wizardry. I can only do so much.
Would it be possible to have a compilation of everything that's on the table in one Word document, perhaps?
Sure.
That makes
That would be-
sense.
That would be great. And maybe then we could do like a line item veto kind of thing, or just
Yes,
add comments as
yes.
it goes.
yes.
Yeah.
Steve, that's why I started it that way, so
Yeah.
that we could do that.
Yeah.
But I'm not getting it addressed that way.
So, yeah, I mean, if anyone wants to volunteer to do the compilation, that'd be great. I'd certainly be happy to look at it and add comments.
There you go.
Yep.
So, Mr.
What-
Chairman, if anyone has any additional suggestions, they need to get them in by next Friday. How about that? But that includes Jeff Stedman's. I've never seen, so everyone needs to put their stuff on the table and then we can all sort it out. And I think,
Why next Friday? That's your week right there.
Frankly, I think we have stuff on the table. Let's just get it in one
Cool.
document. And then if someone wants to add something to it, just like they were commenting about one line item, they could add a line item. That's fine. I'd be happy with that.
Anybody have a problem with that? Okay, try and get it to Steve and myself as soon as possible. So any additions, any changes, you've all talked about it, put it in writing.
I think we should go with the 1 week because some people are not here that want to put in and reorganize their thoughts. If it's catch as catch can, we might not get in to you and Steve to distribute it. So why don't we just have a simple deadline by next Friday or next Thursday, if you want it to be exactly a week.
Now you're
Plus to
giving
get
Steve,
to.
now you're giving Steve no time.
That gives him plenty of time.
How do you figure that? I wanted this done and now you're dragging it on. I'm willing to give you a week, but he doesn't have a week if it's every comment is due by next week.
Steve has Steve, and
Steve has a full-time job.
why don't we let Steve speak? And he, for the first time in a while, has offered this, which is great. Let's let Steve speak to see whether 1 week deadline for our additional comments and our holistic comments is okay.
I mean, we've been going at this for a long time. I think if people don't have their thoughts together by now, they're not going to. I would just like to see, it doesn't matter what font, what size, whatever, let's just get this in one Word document and we'll treat it as if we were rating
Yes.
something. We can all add our comments. We can add whatever we want in free form.
Thanks, Steve. I'll send my list right after we adjourn this meeting.
Excellent.
For
I
those
agree
of-
what you're saying, Steve.
If we do it in Word, I mean, Word has provisions to add comments and everyone's comment would have your name on it, would be in a different color, all that good stuff. So we would know where these came from. And if there were any questions to address the author.
Any other comments?
No, I would just, Mr. Chairman, just for formality, I'd like to put a motion on the floor that to codify this, that we do that, and that there is a compilation document put together such that comments and edits may be made by the committee.
Do I hear a second on that motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Clearly carries, Steve. Thank you.
Sir.
Just a quick question. When will we get the document, Steve? When the one is already put together?
So as soon as I get them from the individual parties, and just for clarification's sake, so there's Chairman Schnierlein's, Mr. Stedman's, and perhaps also from Ms. Loricella. Are there any other documents?
Yeah.
Okay, so if I can get those three in short
Cool.
order, I'll compile it, make it maybe a little bit prettier than it arrives, and just send it out.
Sounds good.
Thanks,
you.
Steve.
Welcome.
So anything else on the recommendations for the commissions before we move on to the mission statement? Now, Jim Bartley had done work on the mission statement, and if my memory serves me correctly, we did approve it. And I have it on the last page of today's agenda that I sent out. Are there any comments or criticisms or changes that we have to make? Diane?
Yes, I thought we did approve a different version of what I was sent in our most recent, and that includes the word watersheds or watershed, and that's now been left off of the current version that we were sent this week, Joe. So I might just be a mix up with the secretarial services, or I'm not aware that we decided. I thought we decided to add that word because it is both an educational inference, but also a truth. It implies the drainage area instead of just the waters.
And where would you like that in the statement as listed?
We voted on that and agreed to add it in.
Right.
Right. I don't have, if someone could put it up on the screen, I don't have it in front of me, but it would be, I think, the second sentence that just maybe Jeff Stedman might.
Why not just attach that to the recommendations? If we're going to spend another week, just have Steve put that.
No, I'm sorry, Jeff. It was something that we discussed at length, and there was a reason to
voted
put
on
it.
it.
We voted on it and we put it in there, and it just got lost in the sauce between the different secretarial services, which is understandable.
We're not saying we didn't vote on it, but why not?
Point of order, please. Mr. Schneiderlein, the
Yes, ma'am.
secretarial service received the document from your staff, so we didn't lose anything. That was what we were given. Thank you.
Okay,
That's fine. No, I don't think it was the so we did speak to it for a little while, several months ago. And everyone agreed, and there was a lot of discussion. So no, we shouldn't, of
okay,
course. we were-
Diane, we agree with you here. Is it possible for you to get that to us
Sure.
within the next 2 or 3 days?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'll just go back to my notes and our notes.
Thank you.
The point I was trying to make was that if we're going to distribute the recommendations to the public and to elected officials, there would need to be some introductory remarks to the recommendation describing the role of the Water Quality Committee and what its purpose is.
It's an excellent idea.
So when this stuff goes out, it goes out together. I wasn't suggesting that we didn't vote on it previously, but it should be part of a public outreach effort.
I absolutely,
Explaining the commission what its mission is, and here are the committee's recommendations for 2020, 2021, something like that. It goes together.
okay. Okay. Under, let's see, how much time do we have? Under new business, Jeff, you had something you told me you wanted to bring up at the meeting. Did you already bring it up, or is it something else?
No, I just think I didn't send my suggested recommendations to everyone. I just sent that to you and to the Shellfish and Harbor Commission chairs. But I also pulled out from the Harbor Management Plan the objectives and the policies that concern water quality, the protection and improvement of water quality. And I think that's important to recognize that part of the recommendations and the initiatives that the committee will be pursuing are to advance those already established city policies and objectives have been approved, adopted by the city council and approved by the state of Connecticut, specifically having to do with water quality. So that if we're talking about public outreach, that's another piece of information that we might want to distribute to people or have available for people to look at.
Okay. Planning and zoning, we already did. I did ask Dick to put together a quick summary of the information from the USGS. And Dick, were you able to get to it?
Yep, I got to, the one upstream is not on, I couldn't find that one. I found the one at the Maritime Center and I found the one out at Cove.
That's it.
And there are 2 continuous recorders. When did they go in, Joe? Just recently.
They've been in over a month. I didn't check the dates to see how far back they go.
The dates they show to date are from the 26th to the 2nd, so they may not have come online until the 26th. But these machines, these monitors do a lot, probably give you more than you even need. But continuously recording, you get temperature top and bottom, you get specific conductivity, dissolved oxygen top and bottom, and turbidity top and bottom. And what else we got here? You have
Dissolved oxygen.
yeah, dissolved oxygen. I mentioned that one. So just to give you an example, the one that's in at the Maritime Center, from the 26th to the 2nd, was recording surface oxygen at 24 to 26 parts per thousand. And the bottom was from 2 to 2.6 parts per million. When that big slug of water came down through the harbor on the 1st, oxygen at the surface dropped to 20 parts per million. And oxygen at the bottom from 24 to 25 dropped to 19.8 and stayed there for a very short period of time and then recovered. So obviously that big slug of fresh water had quite a impact. Now, one thing that particular monitor is missing is salinity. It's not recording it yet, although it's set up.
It's got conductivity.
Conductivity has been being recorded. but
Right.
not salinity. Okay, then turbidity. And here you start talking, deep science. Formagen naphthalmic units, FNU, is what it gets measured in, okay? And to put that in perspective, 1 milligram per liter equals 3 FNUs. So if you had an FNU of 30, if you want to relate that to parts per million of sediment or whatever in the water, it would be 10 milligrams per liter. So this is all measured by, I'm not sure what the mechanism is to use it, infrared light of some kind. And again, looking at that unit that's by the center, the FNU at the surface was 5 to 10, which is very low. And when the slug of water hit it, it went to 70. On the bottom was 0 to 2, very straight, not much problem at all until the water hit, and then it went to 500, and that lasted a matter of minutes and dropped back down again. So those are the kind of numbers you're going to be able to get. I think any question you might have on water quality could be answered by tuning into the website and dialing up what you want. Here's another thought. The unit can be manipulated. If you wanted to compare one site to the other, that can be done. It'll do a graph for you. If you need a graph with surface oxygen, it'll do that. If you need NTUs in the bottom, it'll do that. And it'll compare up to 3 different probes. So there are 3 that we're involved with. As of yet, I don't know where the one is in upstream. You said it was near Perry Street?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a lot of things you can do with this system in comparison and getting day-to-day readings, if it's that important to you. But we have a wealth of information here, and it all depends on how accurate and how reliable these things become over time.
When I took a look at the aquarium's data, the thing that impressed me is from the 26th to the 2nd, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times when the dissolved oxygen readings got down to 2 parts per million. Now, that's a death sentence for a lot of animals. And that's only in 1 week. And it's during 8 more tidal cycles than those 8. If you look at the same period of time out by Cove, it doesn't get that low. So there is a dissolved oxygen issue up the harbor more than there is out by Cove Marine. But I highly recommend that. I believe I sent the links to all of you for the 2 sites. Take a look at them, and it gives you an interesting idea, like Dick said, of what's happening and how dynamic it is. And you get to see that our harbor is not stagnant. It changes constantly with the tide and with the time and with the daylight and with the nighttime. So it's all those factors combined that give us what we're dealing with.
Which is the website, Joe?
John, I think I sent the links to you.
No.
No? Okay, I will do it as soon as we're finished.
Thank you.
Okay.
And Dick, I have a question. FMUs, how does that relate to NTUs for turbidity?
How does what relate?
That unit you mentioned, FMU, is that the same as NTU?
NTUs, yep.
It's NTU or FMU? I didn't hear that.
Formagen naphthalmic units, FMU. 1 milligram per liter equals 3 of them. So if you have a liter of water with 1 milligram in it, that would be 3 NTUs.
And that's for turbidity?
Yeah.
Oh, all right, I'll look it up. Okay.
Okay, moving on. Any comments from the public? I don't see any. Okay, Okay, reading and approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Any comments or changes? Diane?
Just one quick one. I know we were talking so quickly. I'm sure that that's one reason that we talked about 5 Mile River, and it's attributed to Steve Bardish. And I'm sure he didn't say this, but the 5 Mile River is, of course, not part of the Saugatuck River watershed, which is in Westport. So, Mr. Bartush, I don't know if you want to modify. This is attributed to you, and
Yeah, I
maybe-
can see that, Diane, thanks. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, this 5 Mile River has its own watershed.
right.
Okay. Any other comments? Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Peter. Second? John? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Peter, is that in opposition or in favor?
I had to undo my, my mute. That's why I was in favor.
So you're in favor, good. Just making sure. Okay, can I have, the next meeting is for October the 7th. Hopefully, we can wrap up recommendations for the commission and the city. And can I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
Steve, Peter, I'll take that as a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any
It-
opposition? Okay. Hopefully you're all in dry homes with dry basements.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
See you the 7th.
How can we become able to speak at the Shellfish Commission meeting? Is there a link, or do we just go on the city website?
Yeah, go to the website, Diane, and when Pete asks for public comment, we'll just recognize you and have the moderator give you the mic.
Okay,
That-
thanks.
That's right in the beginning.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.